So, back for another VGC guide, and this time we are looking at Umbreon. It gets Calm Mind now. I'm going to say that very evolution. But yeah, it gets Calm Mind now. And that's actually pretty good for it. Like, its special attack is pretty pathetic, but then Calm Mind is going to somewhat mitigate that. If you get 2 Calm Minds, you're actually doing some respectable damage. If you get 2 Calm Minds, are they actually breaking through Umbreon? Because it's got amazing bulk. Like, one of the bulkiest things in the format, for sure. And it can't be faked out because of inner focus, which is pretty nice. I would definitely use that over Synchronize to avoid any of the flinches. Even if they do go for like some sleek stuff into you, or trying to poison you to break through you, then I would still recommend inner focus. Dark Pulse could be Snarl. It definitely could be Snarl. There it is. You could get away with that, because then you can just bulk yourself out even further, but you really want to be able to do some damage once you Calm Minded. So Dark Pulse would be my recommendation over Snarl, but then you do get recovery as well. That's why I think that this is even more justifiable on Umbreon, because it gets Calm Mind and Moonlight. Think of this like a Cresselia. Like, Cresselia didn't do too much damage until it got some Calm Minds up, and Umbreon can do exactly the same thing. It's slightly weaker than Cresselia is, in terms of offensive damage output, but as soon as you've got a couple of Calm Minds, you're sorted. And then you've got Terra Blaster's coverage to hit some Steel types, not hit some Steel types, hit some Fairies with your Steel type, Terra type. So that would be probably one of the better coverages you can get, because it's also a defensive Terra type as well. So that you can get the defenses, and then you can hit Fairies with Terra Blast as well. So that's pretty sweet. Basically, you want as much special attack as you want, not as you want, as you need. Invest as much special attack as you can, is the sentence I'm looking for Umbreon, because it's going to have absolutely pathetic output if you don't mess into it. You don't need that much bulk to be able to bulk out the Umbreon any further. So if you went for something like this, then you don't need that. You really don't need that, because it's much more efficient to invest in the lower stats, especially when it comes to the damage output here. So definitely bump up. You could even justify going Modest as well, because your bulk is still very good. If you went with Bold, you wouldn't need any defensive investment at all. So this would be perfectly fine. You can go with the very defensive set as well. Like, this set came second at Worlds, so it is entirely justifiable. And this one you can bump up your defenses, because for this set you do not care about offenses in the slightly. Offenses in the slightly? That's not a sentence. You know what I meant, though. So, yeah, this one you do want to bulk up your defense, because you're going to be snarling things, so your special defense doesn't need as much investment there. And the nice combination of Foul Play and Snarl is you reduce the special damage output, you're not reducing the physical damage output, so that your Foul Plays are still doing respectable damage. Helping Hand would allow Umbreon to still help out its partners do good damage, so even if the Foul Plays wouldn't do too much damage, Helping Hand would allow that to be able to do that. You definitely want Moonlight as well. Moonlight is going to be very nice recovery, because it's going to be so bulky, not many things are going to be able to break through it. Another recommendation would be to have Yawn over Helping Hand. That was the main thing on Generation 8 VGC, would be to have Yawn over Helping Hand. In Generation 7 VGC, Helping Hand was better than Yawn. Now we're getting back closer to what Generation 7 was, because there's no Dynamax. Yawn was brilliant in Dynamax formats, because you could Yawn the Dynamax Pokemon. There's nothing of that anymore. Yawn is still fine. I would still probably lean towards Helping Hand instead, though. But I am quite surprised that personally, I don't think I've seen any Umbreon at all. And it is still a very, very good Pokemon. Like, for sure. The fact that it can make itself not weak to Fairies is very nice. And there's not actually many Fairies in the format, I guess. You can Terror into a Fairy. But yeah, this is still so bulky. It can still do exactly what it was doing previously that made it so good. And we took ages to realise that Umbreon was so good back in Generation 7 until we got to the World Championships. And then it was great in Generation 8. It was on, a winning Players' Cup team, I think? Or at least the Champions one. The Champions thing afterwards. Like, Leonardo Bononomi used Umbreon, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, yeah, Umbreon was still very good on that one. It still should be entirely reasonable in this format, especially because you can still go with what it did before and be amazing. But you could also Calm Mind now. And you could be a mini Cresselia. And that's pretty sweet as well.